Hey guys, Vicious from ViciousComputers.com here. Today I'm going to be doing a video product review for the Nuforce Icon HDP. If you've ever heard of Nuforce before, you know that that's a company that's associated with high-end audio products. But what exactly is the Nuforce HDP? That's what we'll be going over today. So first I'm going to reference the box here because it kind of tells the story. HDP is an acronym and it stands for Headphone Amplifier, DAC, and Preamp. So the HDP is actually 3 products in one. So this little unit fills a lot of duties. So before I go into the unit itself, first I want to talk about what these 3 things are and what is the major benefit of having a high-end audio product like the HDP versus your run-of-the-mill equipment that you might already have. So the first thing I want to talk about is a headphone amplifier. Everybody is familiar with one in some way or another. A headphone amplifier is any device that has a headphone jack on it. So your MP3 player, your iPod, your CD player, all those have an amplifier in them because the amplifier is responsible for amplifying the analog signal from the device and turning it into power and sound for your headphones. And so the major differences between having a run-of-the-mill amplifier and a nice high-quality one is the power the amplifier can produce and the quality of that sound it can produce. So first, power. When you move up the ranks of headphones, which you might be tempted to do once you start getting some nicer equipment, if you haven't already gotten some nicer equipment, higher quality headphones oftentimes have a higher impedance. And what happens if you were to take some 600 ohm headphones and try to plug them into your iPod, it would be a disaster. It would sound horrible and you'd have very low volume, and that's because that amplifier of that device is not designed to be able to run high impedance headphones. And the other thing is the quality of the sound. Oftentimes in a cheap amplifier there'll be things like a hum or a hiss and a buzz that you can hear, or when you turn it up high you'll get a distortion. Those are all characteristics of a cheap amplifier. So with the HDP, the amplifier had no noise at all, no matter how loud or how quiet I had it, no hum, hiss, or buzz, and it's actually rated to power all the way up to 600 ohm headphones, which is pretty much about as high as you can go. So it definitely has you covered on all spectrums of what you need to push. The next thing is the DAC. And a DAC actually is another acronym. It stands for Digital to Analog Converter. And what that really means, in the simplest terms, is that it's a sound card. When you're playing something off of your computer, everything on your computer is a digital source. It's a digital file. And it has to first convert that digital file into an analog signal so that your amplifier can turn it into sound for you. The DAC is really the most important thing in the system, and it's usually the biggest weak point between what you want to hear and what you do hear, because the DAC is doing all the work in making that sound come to life. So I can tell you now that the DAC in here is amazing. It's transparent, which is a term they use to say whatever you are hearing is what you're supposed to hear. It doesn't add any bass to the music, it doesn't add any highs, it doesn't distort the music in any way. So what you hear is what you're supposed to hear. And it's I'm going to reference the box again here because this is also important. It's Class A, and using the USB input it does a 96 kilohertz 24-bit, and if you use the digital inputs it does a full 192 kilohertz 24-bit. You audio gurus already know what that means. For everybody else, it just means that it really kicks ass. This thing does, up there with the highest, most expensive stuff. It competes with everything. So, one thing to note is that when you get a devoted audio product like the HDP versus, say, an expensive sound card, because I know that might be a common question, should I get a DAC or should I get an expensive sound card? A computer sound card really isn't devoted to audio quality. It's usually devoted to features that the computer might use, and oftentimes gaming. So different virtual surround features and EAX, stuff like that. So it's not really devoted to sound quality. So if you were to buy a sound card that costs the same amount as the HDP, I can almost guarantee you that the audio quality won't be there. And now moving on to the last feature, the preamp. Preamp is a really simple concept. It just means that the HDP has a line out, which is right here on the back, so that you can hook it to another device. Say you have a home theater system, a speaker system, something like that. But the difference between not having a preamp and having a preamp is that you can control the volume from the HDP with its volume knob. It pre-amplifies the signal before it goes to the next device. And that actually was not something I bought the HDP for, but it became one of my favorite features really quickly, because when I'm using that, I have it pulled out for review, but when I have it hooked up, it goes over here, right where I'm sitting at the computer. And now when I have my speakers on, my amplifier is across the room. If I want to change the volume, I just reach out and change the volume. I don't have to tinker with any of the digital volume settings on the computer or with the game, and don't have to mess with the remote for the amplifier. So having that convenience actually really evolved my system to a new level, and having that feature was very handy. So now I'm going to go ahead and move the camera and let you guys get a little bit of a closer look at the unit. We'll talk about the unit itself. So let's see if we can get this right. That looks good. And let me get a sip of water. I am not a video commentator, and I lose my voice from talking this much. Okay guys, so here we go. The front of the unit, from top to bottom. On the top is a knob that is your volume control knob, and also acts as your on and off switch. When you turn it past the first point, you'll hear the click and it's on, and you can see that it rotates very far, over 300 degrees. The volume knob is very, very sensitive, so the slightest movement that you make is going to actually affect your volume, so you can get perfect volume adjustments. And it goes from as quiet as you can possibly imagine to blowing your ears up if you want to go all the way around with it. So it's got the power you want. Down below it there is a second knob, and this knob has 3 positions that clicks in place, and this is your input selection. You can't see the letters on the camera probably, but on the far left position is a U above that indicator, and that's letting you know that you're using the USB input. So that is how you're going to connect your computer to this. It connects right with your USB port, and it uses the DAC of the unit to act as your sound card. So you don't even need a sound card in your computer to use this, because it's actually going to bypass your sound card. In the middle there is a D there, and the D stands for digital input, because the HDP can accept other digital sources like your Blu-ray player, your PlayStation 3, anything that has a digital output that can connect to this, and use the DAC as well. And last, on the far right, is the last setting for A, analog. Analog connections are anything that's not digital, basically. So older devices like your PlayStation 2, your DVD player, those are going to send an analog connection. Analog is already converted, so it's not going to use the DAC inside of the unit, but it will still use the preamp and the headphone amplifier if you're listening to it with your headphones. Down here below that, you're not going to be able to see it. There is a status LED here. It'll light up a nice warm white when the unit is on and receiving a signal, and it lights up a bright red when the unit is on but not receiving a signal. So that way, if you're not hearing something, it kind of lets you troubleshoot. Maybe you had it set to the wrong input. And the last thing here is a quarter-inch headphone jack right in the front where you plug your headphones in. So that's all you have on the front. Moving on to the side. The sides on both sides of the unit don't have any connections. It just has the Nuforce logo, and this casing is pure solid aluminum, and it's aluminum because it's strong, sturdy, and modern material, but it also acts as the heat sink so that the unit can ventilate. It uses a passive cooling, meaning that there's no fans or moving parts, so the unit won't break or fail on you in the future because the fan goes out, which is a problem with some amplifiers. So this is totally passive cooled. Moving on to the back, this is the business end of things. At the very top is the DC input jack. The unit does come with a power brick. Just plug that into here to supply power to the unit. And then you're going to have two RCA jacks. These first two are your left and right input for analog inputs. Again, that'd be like your PlayStation 2, your DVD player, your iPod even. You can get a little adapter cable and plug your iPod into here. The third RCA here is a coaxial input. This is a digital input. A lot of devices like to use coaxial as their digital connection. Below that is a 1/8 inch headphone jack that is also a digital input. This is for your optical input, and the HDP does come with an adapter so that you can use SPDIF input from there. And then now here towards the middle is a USB input. This is a Type B USB plug. The HDP does come with the USB cable that you can use for it. So that's where you're going to plug your computer into it. And last but not least are the two more RCAs. This is your output. This is where the preamp is going to send a signal to your next device if you want to do that. So you probably already noticed that this little stand here, it comes with this stand. It's made out of silicone, so it's kind of like a soft rubbery material. That's so that you can use this unit upright like I have it. But if you don't want to, you can take it off and you can lay the unit down flat on its side. Now I found that using the unit by itself on the desk, the stand was a little bit more convenient, because when it's up on its side like this, the headphone jack is up off your desk, so you can get to it easier, as well as the knobs. If you were to have it on its side, it might be a little bit harder to get to those things. But if you already have equipment on your desk sitting on top of something else, then it might make more sense to lay it on its side. Also, to show you the scale of things, here's the remote to my amplifier for my home theater receiver. If you look at the side of the HDP and you look at the size of the remote, you'll see that it's not even 50% wider than the remote. So it is not very large. Looking at the back of it for that angle, again, it's only twice as thick as the remote. And looking at the height of the unit, my remote is actually taller than the unit, even when it's on the stand. So the HDP, it goes to show that you don't need to have a very large piece of equipment to get a lot of performance, and that's a really great feature, because if you have a small desk or a small living space, there's really no want to have large equipment taking up all your space. So now that you had the up close and personal with the unit, let me evaluate it for you. First of all, I've been using it for about 3 months now, so I've had a lot of hands-on time. This is not some first impressions review. I've been using it for a while. I have tested it with multiple headphones. I have Audio-Technica A700s, Audio-Technica AD700s. Here is the Ultrasound H5 2400s. I've tested some Logitech Ultimate Ears 55510 IEMs. And I can say that with any headphones I tested it with, it produced really clean sound, no distortion, no noise, and it sounded much better than my Creative X5 sound card that I was using prior to getting this. So, real quick, let me mention something real quick about the X5 card. Sound cards are really, like I said, targeted towards gaming, and I've been talking about this as a high-end audio product. So something that might not come to mind is that you might want this for gaming, and most people don't look at something like this for gaming because they assume that the sound card is the best choice, but it's not. This is actually great for gaming. Ever since I have had this, I have yet to use the computer sound card ever again. Because even when you're playing a game, You'll still notice the clarity of the sound, and the sound effects is much sharper, crisper, and better. It makes everything come to life. So if you're a gamer, don't rule out getting a product like this, because it's still very well worth your investment. And then you can also take advantage of all the other things it can do, like act as an audio hub. Any input that comes in here is all going to come out through that preamp, so it can put all your audio sources together for you. And that preamp feature is very handy, and it's great to have that headphone plug right there at arm's reach. The DAC, again, being very important. I definitely noticed it was transparent. I tested some other DACs. I borrowed a few products from people, and I tested it against my sound card, against my onboard, against my laptop. I did a lot of testing, and the DAC really is awesome on here. Looking it up online, other people that have reviewed and tested the unit agree that what you get for this, what you're paying for, you're getting a lot more than what you're paying for. And let me remind you, since it's 3 things in one, that there's actually a lot of value here. Because if you were to go and purchase a high-end preamp, a high-end DAC, and a high-end headphone amplifier, the cost would add up incredibly fast, and then you'd have a lot more clutter on your desk from having 3 separate things instead of just one. I don't have any negatives about the product at all, actually. But if I had to make any recommendations on things I could think that would make it even better for me, first of all, let me explain that there's an input knob here, like I said, but you'll notice there was no output selection. And that's because the HDP is a very smart device. It automatically chooses the best output for you. So when you plug your headphones into the front, any device that's sending input to it is going to go to the headphones. When you unplug the headphones, everything's going to go to the preamp outputs in the back. And that's very intelligent, and it makes a lot of sense. But some people, like myself, actually like to leave the headphones plugged in, just so I don't have to worry about unplugging and plugging in my cable all the time. So if I could select my output, that might actually be a nice feature. I wouldn't mind having that 3rd knob there to do that, if it was possible. And even maybe even cooler would be if you could have both outputs simultaneously. Say I want to listen to my headphones for the sound, but perhaps send the pre-out to a powered subwoofer so I could get some like bass going. And also, there's a really cool product out there called the Butt Kicker Gamer that I'm probably going to be getting, and that's an audio transducer that'll connect to my chair, and that's going to require an input. So while I'm using my headphones on here, I won't be able to use that unless I get a splitter. I won't give it like a rating by score, because I don't really do that. I just really wanted to introduce you to the product, tell you if I found any major flaws, tell you what I really liked about it. To summarize everything in conclusion, what I liked about it was that it was small, that the quality really caught me by surprise. I couldn't believe what I was hearing at first. You know, it was really a big change in quality. The convenience of the preamp is something I didn't really expect to be such a surprise to me. You know, the convenience of having that has changed the way I use my setup, and being able to use this as an audio hub was great too, because when I have it hooked back up, it's going to have my Wii and everything coming into it. It's going to have my computer coming into it, and then being able to switch between those sound sources in the front here. Really nice. So Nuforce, I give you guys a thumbs up for a really great product. I would probably recommend this to anybody that wants to have their first exploration into high-end audio, because for the money you spend here, you're getting a lot. So this is and you're getting 3 things that you might need all up front. So this is a great first purchase. If you're looking to modernize your setup because of its size and weight, that's a really good idea. Gamers, again, this is good for gaming, and I know one fad that's catching on right now is surround gaming headsets. That's a myth, guys. You don't need surround speakers to hear positions in game, because the game engine is going to render the audio for you in a virtual surround setup. So even with just 2-speaker headphones, you'll still be able to hear people above, below you, left, right, everywhere. So you do not have to buy those expensive gimmicky surround headsets. Get yourself something like this and a really good pair of 2-speaker headphones and you'll be all set. No cons. Included accessories: it came with the stand, it came with the adapter. It also comes with the headphone jack adapter. Since it has a 1/4 inch in the front, a lot of people might have the 1/8 inch headphones. So this here, I'm going to rip it open now. This will plug into the front so that you can plug smaller headphones into it. So it came with every accessory you could need. Came with a nice solid box. It was packaged well. And I'm just going to close out the review by reading off the specs on the back of the box here, okay? So here we go, if my voice holds out. Features USB 2.0 full speed compliant and 1.1 supported, 8 to 96 kHz, 16 to 24-bit DAC, SPDIF input, coaxial up to 192 kHz and 24-bit, or optical up to 192 kHz 24-bit, analog input, 3.5mm or RCA input, high precision 24-bit DAB converter, low distortion high current class A amplifier, high quality analog volume control, inputs, analog RCA or 3.5mm when inserted, digital input SPDIF coaxial or 3.5mm when inserted, USB DAC, USB 1.0 and 1.1 up to 44.1 kHz 16-bit, USB 2.0 full speed up to 96 kHz 24-bit, RCA output is 2.6 volt RMS, headphone output is a 6.3mm full size headphone output jack, drives headphones up to 600 ohms, which is 96 milliwatts at 600 ohms. Signal to noise ratio is greater than 100 decibels. Power requirements is 100 to 240 voltage, and the dimensions of it are actually 6" by 4.5" by 1" and it weighs 1 pound. Also, the last thing I forgot to mention, the colors. It comes in silver, like you see here, like a gunmetal silver, and it comes in a nice jet black. So those are the most 2 common colors you'll find with audio equipment and home theater stuff. So you get to choose your color. The silicone stand is just in white, so you'll have to deal with that. Hopefully, guys, the review was enlightening to you. And if you have any questions, or if you're concerned, like you want to know more about it, or if you have one and you want to share your comments, then just go ahead and comment on the video and let me know what you think. Thank you very much.